Hey guys, what's up? It's La coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And I was going to think of talking about something else, but then I actually started thinking about something else. So we're actually going to talk about that. What do you say? Something else, something else. Something else, something else. So, when it comes to what's going on now and what we're going to see go on is we're finally going to hit that economic calamity that's been hyped up so much. It's going to be coming. It's in 2026. We knew something was going to happen, but this war is kind of solidifying it, and we don't we don't really need to get into the politics of that, as I'm pretty sure it's pretty obvious what's going on. But what we do know is that there is going to be pretty substantial economic fallout as a result of it, and potentially for a while now. And this has been talked about. That the economy, even though the economy seems all right, the fundamentals are not there at all. I don't know why I said the economy seems all right. What I'm saying is things kind of seem all right, I guess, but I think there's a mixture of things that are happening. Something I think is interesting is I don't really notice that many people even being that aware of the war. It's kind of jarring or strange to me. It kind of seems like people just I don't really know. I want to say that back when we went into Iraq and Afghanistan, that had so much more of a cultural weight to it. It's kind of like everybody knew about it or something. I mean, people were fairly aware of it. This one, it just seems like there's a large swath of people that just don't really care. And the only thing I really credit that to is technology and people's exhaustion with things and people's apathy to things. Ultimately, entertainment has gotten so much more stimulating and potent that it's just distracting people. I think people are very distracted. It's kind of the same thing with, I'm not remembering what the country is, but there was a country that had banned social media for people, and then they revolted, and then that law got overturned. I really think tech, it satiates people. That is not the right word. But it does. I mean, you could be, I think I've made this point before, you can be dirt broke. And as long as you have a relatively all right phone, which even some pretty affordable cheap ones are pretty strong, they have a pretty good CPU efficiency, battery life, screen quality as far as things are concerned, especially for most people who don't really obsess over metrics. It's way better than it was tech has been so grimy for a long time. Screens have been relatively poor quality, but now, a pretty cheap phone can punch really hard. You can get used old phones that, again, still punch really hard. It's so easy to get your hands on a decent phone. It's really easy. And the truth is that's all you kind of need to maximize your dopamine. I don't really think much else is needed. So as long as you hit that sedated, you're going to be pretty sedated. And that's why I think you're not going to see protests. You're not going to see people protesting, even though I think there should have been protests a long time ago based on the trajectory of things and based on probably, really the 2020s have been, in general, this period where, a lot of the cracks are starting to form. A lot of people are really struggling financially. And I think you would have had more of a revolt or an acknowledgement of this. But again, people are just skirting on through. That's just what's happening. Now, the main thing I was thinking of and wanting to talk about is a more important spotlight on kind of how, at least in America, but I think it also could be at a human level, how we view money and how we view these things. Obviously, with the upcoming poor economic states, it further emphasizes the need for a stronger minimum wage. It further, I mean, that was already the case, but if you have gas prices double, that affects everybody equally, except people making six figures are still going to be able to foot the bill. And people making minimum wage, I mean, I don't even know what could happen to me personally because my commute is obviously fairly long. So I'm really going to be hammered by a doubling in gas. I'm definitely just going to get hammered by it. Now I'm trying to make it until Monday without needing gas, but because it's scary, because with how fast it's rising, but it really doesn't matter, I guess. I actually got gas right before the spike. But anyways, it further showcases this idea that why are people making six figures getting larger raises than people making minimum wage? It doesn't make any sense at all. It's completely unnecessary. And I think particularly during times of financial hardship, there should probably be a pretty significant boost to how much lower wage workers are getting raised because cost of living is going to hit them the hardest easily. The only reason why somebody making six figures would ever have any issues is if, I guess, they're living in a extremely high cost area or they're just really irresponsible with their money and probably blow it on stuff they don't really need to. And I think the default mindset has always been and kind of is now still in America is if somebody earns their money, they have every right to kind of do whatever they want. And that's been like this big thing, right? We talk about this freedom, autonomy. I can do what I want. No, but, don't tell me what to do. Like, this is the predominant American attitude. People want their money, they want it, and they want to be able to do whatever they want with it. But it doesn't really make any sense, because I think we should absolutely be judging people on how they spend their money. And you shouldn't have somebody making six figures that can do a bunch of extra useless things and then you have like another person who's unable to make ends meet. I think we should look at that. We should not just keep things, I don't know how they are. Now, something I have thought about more recently when I think about these topics is there is an overall stability that I guess has to be factored in somewhat, because you do have to remember higher income people, they probably own a bigger property. So as a result, they probably have extra expenses. And yes, I mean, it's fundamentally true that with six figures, you can easily have a roof over your head, but it could actually cause further instability by those people no longer being able to afford a house, for example, and instead now have to rent. It puts more pressure on the renting market. But I think we've already been seeing this effect, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think we've already seen some homeowners end up needing to go down to apartments just due to financial feasibility. I mean, these could be people who are doing fine. You know, they're doing all right financially, but just doing the math, it wouldn't really make sense. And then they get into an apartment, and then that's putting more of a pressure on the apartments market. It's the same thing with cars. I think due to cars ballooning in cost, more and more people are getting used cars. But then that puts in a lot of extra strain on the used car market that didn't used to be there. So now used cars are really expensive too. So you do have to sometimes be careful when you are just handing people extra money. I mean, if you're trying to flatten things or equalize things, but you know, I just think it's obvious that, especially in times that are approaching, it's really something that businesses need to think about. But of course, that's just not how people think about them. They think about themselves. They think about prestige. You know, if somebody's a manager, he deserves more. And it gets complicated too, because let's just say the company I work for decided to do a more equal wage system where it's based on more fair wages. You know, it would lead to a cut in some of the higher paid people and a raise in the bottom earners. If they did that, then they could lose a lot of their workers, because the market is, you know, some of these people who have degrees, they expect a certain salary, and if it got cut, you know, then that's not, the company could be risking losing people. So it's just not something that people think about, and it ends up being just whatever is type of deal. But I still think it's something that has its problems. I mean, I guess you could argue it's just higher costs for things in general is the problem. And then a lot of that, this is also getting into the population issue, how there aren't as many younger people relative to old people. So most of the economy is catered around older people now. And since there's not the same quantity of younger people able to buy things, it just makes things kind of difficult. I think in the past, it genuinely was the case that if you were poor, you could still buy a new car. It was just like a cheap new car. And then nowadays, I feel like if you're poor, you're just kind of expected to buy a used car. Like you're not even, like new cars are sort of more of a nicheified thing. It's weird to think about, but I do think that's genuinely started to happen where it's almost like the new budget, there is no real budget. It's like if you can't afford a new car, you just have to get a used car. And I guess that was always the case. I just think it affected a smaller subset of people. But again, with how wages have been lagging and costs have been growing, this stuff's inevitable. Now, I think part of the other thing, and I bring this up a lot too, is the inefficiencies with how the system works, which there are a lot of them. And there's all kind of problems surrounding this. It goes into governments and trade agreements, as well as company policies and who are working at companies. Are they really showing up and doing things in the most efficient way possible? Or are they not? Is there, because I see it at my company where there's certain things that they do that it doesn't add up to me. It seems silly. It seems strange. It seems inefficient or wasteful. And yet nothing really changes. Nothing changes. I don't understand. These are six-figure. What did I come up with? Six-figure stooges. That's a throwback to that's a throwback to like 6 months ago or something. I don't know if it was quite 6 months, but yeah, I was mad at the whole six-figure stooge thing. But yeah, it's like these people are making these monster salaries. They're in these manager positions, and they're not really coming up with many good ideas. It's like you really have to question that. We automatically idolize these high-income earners, but a lot of times they don't seem too impressive beneath the surface. It seems like more of a luck thing than anything. That's just what I've seen, and I think a lot of people agree with that, Now, I guess you could get into, well, if somebody is lucky, maybe it's deserved. But I think I've talked about how if you wanted to engineer a more successful society, you'd have to eliminate luck as much as possible. And we did see very clear trends with this, as I've articulated before, the development of hospitals, the invention of insurance, the concept. Insurance, you all pool your money into a fund, or in this case, a company, that then will save people when it's needed, when the bill's too high. And the original concept actually makes a lot of sense. There shouldn't be anything inherently negative about insurance or insurance companies as a concept, conceptually. Now, obviously, greed has corrupted the concept. And so most people instinctively hate insurance. They will personally, they'll shudder at the word and just think nothing good about it. But it's a beautiful concept. It is a beautiful concept. And it created a lot of progress. But then now we're starting to get to the point where the cost and the greed is destroying the original vision for what it really sought to do. But insurance is an example of trying to reduce luck. And instead of having luck, you give people more of an opportunity for working. In our most Neanderthal prehistoric state, you could work really hard, you could hunt the best, but you could still just die to some random disease. You know, the animal you decided to kill is infected, you get sick, you go from being the best hunter to dead. All that work and no credit for it. And you're good. You know, you're a good, skilled hunter. You deserve it. But again, because luck is the way of the universe, then that's it. So as society has become more civilized, we engineer luck out of the equation somewhat. Focus more on merits, meritocracy. But even now, there's really not much of a meritocracy left. It's sort of went back into luck again. And I guess it really always was luck. But at least how things were before, it was less about luck and more about more about merit, more about what you could do. And you were given the consistency to have that foresight, which is good. You know, you don't want people to be too comfortable because that could lead to stagnation, but you need to give people enough of a comfort to give them hope. Like, you can't make the cost of living so bad and wages so low that you strip hope from people. Because if you do the math, it just doesn't add up. Why are people going to try to bother to even do anything then? You're stripping hope away. And fortunately, a lot of humans are stupid and they're not really aware of being able to do the math and figure all that stuff out. But it's true. I think a lot of people, that's where we're at. You know, if I could work full time and I knew that that would lead to retirement, I knew that it would lead to homeownership, I'd feel much more motivated than I do right now. But right now, I feel lost. I pick all the low-hanging fruit, or at least almost all of it. You know, getting the fancy phone, getting the nice this, getting the nice that. I guess the next higher hanging fruit would be a nice car, but I don't really think I'm going to do that. I'm just saying that's probably what the highest of the lowest hanging fruit is. Then after that, it's like having a child, starting a family. Those are the high fruit on the tree. Owning a home, retirement. These are the highest fruit. And when you make it so that those fruit are rotten, they're inaccessible, maybe even there's nothing there, well, what is the point? I mean, yeah, we have life, we have our purpose to live life, but our point before was survival, and we elevated that. We elevated our point and our purpose so that we didn't have to think like that anymore. That it wasn't about survival, it was about longevity. And that's why that resulted in a more productive culture. You know, a culture where you didn't have to stress for your survival, but rather you knew that there was high-hanging fruit at some point. which is a superior system. Now, you still have to work. It's not like you can just get the high-hanging fruit without working, but it's set up a path. Nowadays, there's no path. There's no path set up anymore. It's extremely difficult to apply for jobs. It's extremely difficult to get hired. It's extremely difficult and expensive to take classes, which is often a prerequisite. These systems are failing. It takes a lot of effort to do the classes in addition to having to pay for them. And then you still might not even get the high-hanging fruit on the tree. You still just might not even achieve that at all. So what is the point? And I know it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. But I think if you've tried to do something your whole life and then just never even, never became a homeowner, never was able to retire, I think that would affect a person. I don't know, that at the end of that person's life, how they would feel, especially because a lot of this was a shock. My generation was never prepped for this. We were told that everything was going to be fine. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. All of a sudden now there's a bunch of problems and retirement's off the table and home ownership likely off the table. What happened? And why did nobody notice until it was too late? And how come even as time has went on, nobody's fixed anything? Because nobody really has. All these issues have continued to get worse. Our politicians aren't fixing it. I don't really see many people aware to fix it or anything. It just seems like a huge mess. And again, it's a lot of inefficiencies. It's a lot of problems. And there's so much to unpack, and imagine the amount of people that need to be told this stuff. But if you have a high income, you don't really have to listen to anybody. You can just get away with being ignorant. You can get away with a lot of things. Even people on lower incomes, they're often too arrogant to even listen. They're too arrogant to even look at data. They only see the life through their life through their own lens. They only know life viewed out of their own eyes. We've completely lost touch with that core concept of treat others the way you want to be treated. And instead, we're a species that is denying data, denying facts, and prioritizing an individual's experience over the collective's experience. Not understanding where people are coming from. Only knowing what our own problems are and not thinking about other people's problems. Not really thinking about what would make the most sense. And maybe just what makes the most sense to ourselves. If even making sense of that. Because I still see a lot of people the way they live. It's not very efficient. It's very messy. I chalk most of that up to just not being able to figure it out. a lot of people, it's difficult to optimize. It's difficult to set up better structures or routines. And a lot of these things I've managed to pull off, but I still got a lot of work to do. But I still notice just in a general sense how sloppy or messy things could be. I don't think I said that right. How sloppy how sloppy and messy things are and how good they could and should be. I guess that's what I'm meaning to say. There's so much improvement that could be made and so much negativity that people are impacted by it. And again, a lot of these things, if you resolved them, it would result in more prosperity, but maybe it would just be broad and not consolidated. I mean, maybe the way things are now, yeah, it's pretty efficient for the top down. Or about the top up. Yeah, I wasn't really... when I said that, I knew that was probably a mistake. Yeah, it would be the top up. It would be a good thing for the top up, not... Because the top down would be the full shebang. And that is not what we're talking about. But yeah, since I've been working, the economy has just gotten worse. And I guess I'm happy to be where I'm at, but it could be... Major things could be happening soon. Major things. I mean, I've predicted before it could be good for me. So... I'm not really sure why I shouldn't have that outlook that the future's good for me, even though it'll be bad for most people. I should just think because there's really no reason to not think that way. I think I've been mentioning this before, that I don't really understand. I mean, having hope it's such an important and powerful thing, and I really haven't had enough of it. Now that I've been given a small taste, I guess I've had more, but is that really genuine, or could that fade? You don't really know, because what's it really based on? Is it based on solid ground? Or is this, what is the hope that I have based on? Is it just based on the fact that I got crumbs? Because I don't know how much that's real hope. I don't know if I really solved my lack of hope, or if I was just given enough crumbs to finally feel at ease. Deep down, am I actually hopeful about things, or do I still worry about them? How much progress has actually been made is the important question. Perfect light luck. Well, near perfect. I guess the first one was a little bit off, but I never had to use the brakes. So that's always a pleasant surprise. Now I completely forgot what I was talking about. Something about light luck. Nah, I'm just joking. Yeah, I'm not sure what I was getting at there. Probably something important. Probably. Probably something important. For some reason in my brain, it just cued for me to say the bin schla by schla, but it's not time for that. Oh my gosh, this thing. Ooh, a 55. 603.55. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, because I thought I was going to be earlier today, but then it seemed like I was later, but we still got here pretty good timing, so. It's good. It's good. Wow, but it's time for a break. At least, I guess I'm not as tired as yesterday. I guess that shows that I had a decent amount of things to talk about. I never actually talked about what I wanted to, because what I wanted to talk about, I didn't even get to. That's kind of what's interesting, because I had something planned, but then right when I got in the car, I started thinking about something, and then now we're here, and we didn't get anything done. So, yep. Well, no, we got something. I don't know why I'm wording it like that. We definitely got something done. That's why am I saying we didn't get anything done? I don't even think this was half bad of an episode. It was not even half bad of an episode. So I don't know why I'm talking like, oh, dreary like that. Getting all dreary. What am I doing? Yeah, well, at least it's Friday. Kind of hype about that. But like I said, times are getting tough. Times are getting hard. Times are getting rough. There's no time for bars. I know. I was trying to think of something real quick there. I don't know how that really turned out. My fault. I don't. I know. I was trying to make a little poem. Trying to make a little poem there, but I got to work on my poetry. You know, I really feel like I should be a poet deep down. That's my calling. You know, and yeah, I should be a poet. I should be a poet. Anyways, it has been schla, and now it's time to buy schla. So, see you schla.